On the evening of March 3, 2021, 33-year-old Sarah Everard left her friend's house in the Clapham area of South London after spending a quiet evening catching up, sharing tea, and talking about work and life, the simple, everyday moments that make up a peaceful day. Sarah had always been responsible, organized, and thoughtful. Even during a normal walk, she texted her boyfriend to let him know she was heading home. It was a routine habit, one that many women around the world follow for their own sense of safety. At 9 p.m., she stepped out into the cool night air and began walking toward her apartment in Brixton. She chose well-lit streets, stayed on familiar routes, and kept her phone in hand, all the little precautions women often take without even thinking. Sarah wasn't doing anything risky, unusual, or unsafe. She was just walking home. Unbeknownst to her, a man named Wayne Couzens, a serving officer in the Metropolitan Police, was also on the streets at night. He was driving a rented Vauxhall car, prowling the roads in an unsettling and predatory way. Couzens was armed with knowledge that ordinary people didn't have, the authority of a police badge, and the misuse of power that would soon lead to one of the most shocking crimes in modern British high story. As Sarah walked along Pointers Road around 9:30 p.m., CCTV cameras recorded her final known movements. The footage shows her walking steadily, unaware of the danger approaching. At this very moment, Couzens pulled up beside her, using the ongoing COVID lockdown rules as a pretext. He stopped her and pretended to conduct a lawful arrest. Witnesses later recalled seeing Sarah standing near the car, speaking calmly, as though convinced she had no choice but to comply with an officer's instructions. This was the moment everything changed. Sarah Everard, cautious, sensible, strong, had no reason to suspect a police officer was lying. She had no reason to believe that someone sworn to protect people would instead prey upon them. That trust, the trust every citizen has in law enforcement, was precisely what Couzens exploited. Once she was falsely detained, she was handcuffed and placed in his car. CCTV from a passing bus captured the chilling image of Sarah sitting in the back seat, her face turned toward the window, while Couzens sat in the driver's seat. The photo is blurry, grainy, but haunting, the last known image of Sarah alive. She appears calm, perhaps confused, possibly trying to understand what she had done wrong. Couzens appears completely composed, like a man who had rehearsed this moment many times. As the car pulled away, London continued on as usual. People walked their dogs, cars passed by, streetlights flickered. No one knew that in those minutes, a horrific crime was unfolding in real time. No one knew that a Metropolitan Police officer, a person meant to protect the public, had committed one of the greatest violations of public trust the city had ever seen.
When Sarah didn't come home, her family and boyfriend immediately became worried. Sarah wasn't someone who disappeared or broke contact. By the next morning, her phone went unanswered. Her friends grew anxious. Her family reported her missing. And within hours, police began searching for her, at first quietly, then urgently, and finally with national attention. But on that night, during that walk, everything was still unknown. What stands out most painfully is that Sarah did everything right. She followed all the familiar safety rules women are taught from childhood: walk on main roads, stay visible, call someone if needed, let someone know you're on your way. She didn't take risks. She didn't provoke danger. She didn't ignore safety. Yet danger still found her, in the form of someone she was taught to trust. Sarah Everard's last walk home was supposed to be ordinary. Instead, it became the beginning of a tragedy that would shake the United Kingdom, spark nationwide protests, and force a painful conversation about women's safety, law enforcement abuse, and the fear thousands of women silently live with every day. But for now, in this chapter, we stay with Sarah on that quiet, dark road, walking home, unaware of the horror that was about to unfold.
When Sarah Everard didn't return home on the night of March 3, 2021, her absence immediately alarmed those closest to her. Sarah was responsible and predictable. She always messaged when she arrived somewhere, always stayed in touch, and always followed her routine. By the next morning, her phone remained silent, and every call went unanswered. Her boyfriend reported her missing, and her family hundreds of miles away entered a state of panic. At first, the Metropolitan Police opened a standard missing persons investigation, but by midday, the case escalated. Sarah had vanished without leaving behind any trace. No activity on her phone, no social media posts, no messages, nothing. She had simply disappeared between Clapham and Brixton, a walk she had taken many times before. This was not normal. Police quickly formed a timeline of her last known movements. Relying heavily on London's extensive CCTV network, they pieced together the final moments when Sarah appeared on camera, walking calmly, wearing a green rain jacket, white earphones, and bright running shoes. She didn't look distressed or frightened, but the footage soon revealed something chilling. Around 9:30 p.m., another camera captured a strange scene. Sarah standing on the roadside, speaking to a man in dark clothing. Minutes later, she was seen being led toward a white Vauxhall Astor car, and shortly after, the vehicle drove away with her inside. The police didn't immediately know who the man was, but the car became the key. Investigators began tracking similar vehicles registered in the area. What they found shocked them. The car was rented, not owned, and it had been rented by a man named Wayne Couzens, a serving police officer, a man who had access to a badge, handcuffs, and arrest powers, a man who should have been the very person protecting someone like Sarah. As detectives dug deeper, the clues grew darker. Couzens had been working long shifts as a parliamentary and diplomatic protection officer. His job gave him authority, visibility, and the ability to move freely around London. The thought that someone within their own ranks could be responsible was terrifying, not only for police leadership but for the entire country. Still, they needed proof. Investigators examined Couzens' phone data, his movements at night, and CCTV from gas stations along his route. Every piece of evidence pointed toward his involvement. He had been in the same place Sarah was. His phone location matched the route of the rented car. CCTV captured his vehicle driving toward Dover shortly after Sarah disappeared. Finally, detectives discovered Couzens had purchased brand new handcuffs and booked a rental car just days before the incident, actions that weren't normal for an officer off duty. The pieces fit together perfectly. By March 9th, nearly a week after Sarah's disappearance, the police made the decision they would arrest one of their own. Couzens was taken into custody from his home in Kent. The news hit the country like an earthquake. A non-duty officer suspected of abducting a woman? For many, it shattered the unspoken trust between citizens and the police. For others, it confirmed the fears women had long carried, that sometimes danger doesn't come from strangers in the shadows but from people who hold power. Inside the interrogation room, Couzens gave vague, inconsistent explanations. He claimed he was involved with the gang. Then he said he didn't know Sarah. Then he changed his story again. His shifting answers only deepened suspicion. Meanwhile, the search for Sarah intensified. Hundreds of officers combed through woodlands, lakes, fields, and rural areas. Helicopters scanned overhead. Volunteers gathered in parks and neighborhoods hoping to help. The nation watched. Social media exploded with support and fear. Where is Sarah? Became the most asked question in the UK. And then, on March 10th, the discovery came. In a wooded area of Hodeswood in Kent, police found human remains later identified as Sarah Everard. The confirmation broke the country's heart. What had begun as a missing person investigation had turned into a murder case, and the man responsible was not a stranger lurking in darkness, but a police officer who misused his authority in the worst possible way. Couzens was no longer just a suspect. He became the central figure in one of the most devastating and disturbing cases in recent British history. His arrest sparked outrage, grief, and a loss of trust that would take years to mend. And for Sarah's family, the search was over, but the nightmare had only begun. The arrest of Wayne Couzens did not bring relief, only a new wave of horror. A serving police officer had used his training, his equipment, and the power of his uniform to commit an unthinkable crime. As news spread across the UK, disbelief turned into a national outcry. For many women, Sarah Everard's story was not just a tragedy, it was a mirror reflecting their own fears. When the official identification confirmed that the remains found in Kent belonged to Sarah, thousands of people gathered online, sharing grief, anger, and memories of their own unsafe moments. Women wrote messages like, "I walk home with my keys in my hand too. I check behind me every few seconds. I tell my friends when I reach home safely." Sarah had done everything right. She walked on a well-lit road, talked to her boyfriend on the phone, wore bright clothing, and stayed aware. And yet, none of that protected her. That reality shook the nation. Inside the courtroom, Couzens' crimes were laid out in painful detail. The judge heard how he had used his badge to fake an arrest, how he manipulated his authority to force Sarah into his car, and how premeditated his actions were. Every step had been planned, every move carefully executed. It was not a moment of madness, it was a deliberate betrayal of the public trust. On July 9, 2021, Couzens pleaded guilty to the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Sarah Everard. For many, hearing the word guilty brought tears of sorrow, not satisfaction. Justice was important, but nothing could undo what had been done. During sentencing, the judge declared Couzens' actions devastating, tragic, and wholly brutal. He emphasized that the abuse of police authority made the crime uniquely serious. For that reason, Couzens received a whole life sentence, meaning he would never be released from prison. It placed him among Britain's most dangerous criminals. Yet even as the legal process concluded, the emotional impact only grew stronger. Outside the courts, people held vigils for Sarah. Candles flickered in parks and town squares. Flowers were placed near Clapham Common, where Sarah's last walk began. Many who never knew her personally cried as if they had lost a loved one. Her face became a symbol, a reminder of every woman who felt unsafe walking alone. But the grief was not quiet. It turned into a powerful social movement.
Women across the UK began sharing their experiences with harassment, fear, and violence. The phrase "she was just walking home" spread everywhere, on posters, on social media, in protests, and in conversations. It captured the painful truth: Sarah hadn't taken a risk, she had lived a normal moment that millions experience daily. Protests erupted demanding better protection for women, deeper reforms in policing, and accountability for officers who misuse their authority. Many questioned how Couzens' troubling behavior before the crime had been overlooked. Why had complaints been ignored? Why had warning signs been dismissed? How had someone like him remained in uniform? The Metropolitan Police faced the worst trust crisis in its history. Women asked the question, if we can't trust a police officer, who can we trust? In response, the government announced reviews of policing procedures, hiring standards, and misconduct investigations. Committees were formed, recommendations proposed, and new guidelines for officer conduct were introduced. But for many, the damage to public confidence was not easily repaired. Sarah's family, though devastated, spoke with courage. They said they wanted people to remember Sarah not as a victim, but as a kind, intelligent, and loving woman who deserved to grow old, to live her dreams, and to enjoy her life. Their pain became a powerful message, a reminder of the human cost behind the headlines. Gradually, the movement inspired deeper conversations. Why are women still unsafe in public spaces? Why do they have to plan their routes in fear? Why is violence against women still so common? Sarah's story did something rare. It united millions of people in the belief that things must change. And in that unity, her legacy grew. She became a symbol not of fear, but of the fight for safety, equality, and justice. The case was over, but the movement had just begun. Across the world, people continued saying her name, demanding a future where no woman would have to look over her shoulder on her way home. A future where what happened to Sarah Everard would never happen again.